I would like to introduce the speaker for this session, Mr. Suresh Vedula, Director B2B and Enterprise Sales, Nokia India. To just brief you about his profile, Suresh Vedula is a director with Nokia India and manages a channel for institutional and enterprise solution sales. Under his leadership, the business has grown by more than 5 times since inception and has made Nokia a significant player in the enterprise mobility space. Suresh also manages the marketing, partner relations, and solution development activities as part of his current role. Previously, he led the Nokia Money business in India that included the successful launch of the Nokia mobile payment services in partnership with Yes Bank and UBI. He has over 22 years of sales and business development experience in telecom and IT with companies such as Motorola, BT, IBM, and Wipro. Suresh has a postgraduate degree in management from IIM Bangalore and a degree in engineering from NIT Surathkal. Today, the topic of discussion Suresh would like to throw light on would be mobile and its emerging role in business, smartphones and their roles in the business processes, mobile apps and their impact, and concerns and issues around that. Thank you, Suresh, for joining us. Please welcome.
Thank you. I'll try and keep it interactive. I'm really trying to share my views of what's going on. I'm not an expert in this field. This is exactly what I picked up from my interactions with the customers day in, day out. And essentially, it's my view of what's going on. And since I come from the mobility side of the business, I thought I'll try and talk about what I'm seeing as part of the impact of mobility and what I see is happening in the way business is conducted across large, medium, and small business companies over the next 4 or 5 years. I currently manage the enterprise solution, so as part of that, obviously, one of the things we try and do is to pitch devices. Primarily, that's what Nokia does. But we also work with a lot of partners in the developer community to try and get enterprise solutions on top of the smartphones. So that's, I'll try and restrict myself around the smartphones and maybe the so-called feature phones and how we see those impacting, or when we talk to our customers, what we see as the trends emerging, right? What we've seen about 2 years ago, what I see currently, and probably what's going on, what I perceive is happening in the next 2-3 years. So with that, primarily, and there's nothing new here, but I just try and sort of expand on some of these points. There are really 4 big trends that I see happening with the smartphones coming in. And by the way, when I say mobiles, I sort of interchange between smartphones as well as the emerging category tablets. And there's a big reason why that's happening. Obviously, we've seen this explosion of tablets, especially in the consumer side, but we're also seeing a whole lot of tablets coming in from leading brands that are getting increasingly accepted in the enterprise space. So, it's no longer just the phone as we see it, but also the tablets are built in when I talk about mobility. BYOD, bring your own device, so that's a very big thing that's happening. It's been happening for quite some time, but I see that acceleration happening in the enterprise segment over the last 14 months or so. The rise of the App Store, as I call it, I know we all know apps and apps and apps around the smartphone area, but interestingly, we are seeing that many of the IT heads and CIOs that we talk to are now looking very actively at mobile apps for enterprises. And is there a space for therefore to look at App Store to be installed, implemented across the company? Cloud, this whole seminar and session is all about cloud, so obviously there's a large play that's coming in from the developments in the cloud infrastructure. And finally, social media. One of the big things that we're noticing is that, there are social networks and there are social networks, but with the rise of smartphones and portable tablets that's exploding, the number of people that are getting onto social networks, be it for work or for fun, is just not a joke anymore. So there is a significant impact of how people, both the workers and the consumers that are using social media, can impact businesses, and why therefore these ought to be part of any person that's concerned about running the businesses. Yeah, that's really the theme of the whole thing. Let me just pick up the first one, and I call it storming because it used to be a polite request maybe 4 or 5 years ago. In my previous company, I was very clearly told that you can bring in a smartphone so long as it was a monochrome and black and had a QWERTY keypad, right? So no choices given to us, and the IT manager obviously had a very strict rules for the right reasons, right? And therefore it was what it was. And it was also clearly restricted to the top 15, 20, 30 managers who are obviously in charge of the business, and therefore there aren't too many options available for the rest of the middle managers and the executives below that. That's changed. That's changed tremendously. What's driving that, right? It's first, of course, the workforce has changed drastically. Increasingly, young people are entering the workforce, and these guys are digital natives. They were practically born with a mobile phone in their hands, and these guys just simply don't understand some of the things that we went through, standing at 11 in the night for a 1:30 study and all that. So those things are alien to them. And therefore, these guys, when they come to the workforce, they demand the latest technology. They are extremely comfortable using the smartphone technologies and the widgets and objects, and therefore they come with a request. And in some companies, and I'm not joking, we have actually met some people in Bangalore where they said that some people actually decided to move on because their choice of smartphone was not available. Obviously, these are all young kids, fresh out of the college. They can afford to take those decisions, not at my level. But it's a reality. People are actually getting very finicky about it. It's so personal to them. One of the things that Nokia is obviously is in the consumer side. We do a whole lot of research, and mobile is in fact an extremely, extremely personal device, right? So therefore, they feel very strongly about that, and anything that can impact that, right? You can ask them to carry two devices, but they don't like to do that. For them, it's all entwined into one single device. So, and that generation is the BYOD generation. They bring their own device. And it's not just smartphones, it could be the tablets as well. You get a tablet for 7,000 rupees with Wi-Fi enabled in the market today. Why wouldn't I do that? Okay, that's a big concern for a couple of companies that have dominated the PC and laptop business. Obviously, that's a different discussion. But increasingly, that's what we are seeing happening. So as an IT head or a manager, you would definitely be concerned about the requests coming in, especially if you're running a large organization. It's important to listen to these kids that are coming in, especially in the bright young kids who do a whole lot of grunt work for you. You want to understand how to take care of those without obviously compromising the security issues that come with that. Okay, so that's what I call the BYOD brigade storming, and it's one-way street. There's no two things about it. There's nothing that 3 years from now I would imagine that 90% of the population would probably insist and get their own device at work. In fact, we have studies, and I'm not going to put up here, but it was done by Gartner, I think, that talked about India being at the forefront. Why? And I share some numbers coming from the industry. We are selling about 12 to 13 million devices every month in this country, yeah? Out of which close to about 1 million phones are what we call as the smartphones. The rest of the phones are typically in the 2,000 to 3,000 rupee range. Now, these smartphones can range from 7,000 rupees to 45,000 rupee devices. Now, that's and that's been growing at about 50% clip every month, okay? And that's the kind of growth we're seeing in that segment at the smartphone segment. So obviously, more and more people are obviously getting into the smartphone, and not to mention the tablet. So, do not expect them when they come to the work to sort of listen to say, look, there's this lovely laptop with a Windows operating system, so you're hooked to that, and you can't do that. By the way, another interesting anecdote is that people are actually, and all of us do that, right? There is a very thin line. It's getting very, very fuzzy between work and personal stuff at work, right? You respond to a quick business email, another window you have probably a Facebook open, and maybe you're checking out some of the updates on Twitter, all for the right reasons, but there is the thin line between what can be done at work and what cannot be done at work is completely gone, especially in some of the progressive sectors that I've seen. So you can't just say, look, you can't be doing Twittering at Facebook at work, because it's a genuine activity. Monitoring your brand image on Twitter is a genuine activity. So you got to sort of switch between work and life, and therefore, these are the devices that are actually making it happen. The next one I want to quickly cover upon is the so-called phenomena of mobile applications, or what you call as an app store, right? We all know there's an Android ecosystem, there's an iPhone ecosystem, and of course, increasingly Windows and BlackBerry are coming up with their own app stores. Some shots of a couple of devices from our office where we've obviously constantly changing the screens on the Windows operating system that we use, the WP8, Now, if you notice, many of them are actually not just consumer apps. There are quite a few business apps that are emerging on the scene as a tiles, and they're constantly updating because that's what Windows Phone 8 does. In fact, on my phone, I have this software called AirWatch, which is a mobile device management solution. And that alone has a built-in access to approximately 15 or 17 corporate applications from Nokia. This includes flight management, travel management, expenses management, setting up a conference call, calling for meetings, all within the smartphone, right? And by the way, when you do all this, it's done extremely securely. So suddenly what happens is, from the touch of a button, you're actually able to manage several applications. And there's a large ecosystem that's actually emerging for App Store, right? Many of the third-party developers that we talk to, we have a fairly active developer experience practice in Nokia India, and we talk to more than 30,000 application developers across the country. Not only they're doing B2C applications, there's quite a segment coming in saying we'll do B2B applications, right? Accounting applications, stock trading applications. And I don't think anybody, I can't remember the last time I went to a proper Internet Explorer website and said www.something.com, right? It's all done from a button of the app. Increasingly, this entire app is removing the need to get onto a browser experience, right? And that's what apps do to you. They completely remove the need and take you away from the need to understand the underlying browser technologies. Instead, you just press a button, and that's what we're seeing also in the low end of the market. These people are not, they just don't understand, not you want to get into the HTTP terminology. They demand apps. Some of this SME segment that we talk to, they're saying, look, I just want to buy some 10 to 12 phones, give it to my people on the field, but I don't want to compromise some security, give us those buttons, right? He just presses the button and the app launches. Can you do that? And suddenly, there's a demand for the so-called App Store coming in. So as an IT manager, you really want to understand how to integrate some of these apps on the smartphones, which is part of the revolution we're seeing, and at the same time not compromising it. So it's an extremely important trend that's coming in, which is driven by the cloud. Now, so we've seen so there's a mobility angle here, and the apps are getting more and more popular. And why that's happening, because is the entire cloud infrastructure. That's a completely different discussion. I'm sure the whole day people have talked about it. This cloud is making things extremely cheap, right? The Amazon, I don't even think it's a e-commerce store anymore, right? Their entire business model has moved away from big, simple e-commerce it used to be. It's now one of the largest providers of back-end storage system and pay-as-you-use computing processing servers. Extremely cheap, right? The EC2 and S3, the Amazon ecosystem. Now, any smart startup today doesn't really think of going and setting up their own IT infrastructure, right? You just pay a few dollars, you suddenly get this incredibly powerful, cheap computing power and storage ecosystem, and that's cloud for you. Now, along with that, you have some fascinating applications coming in that will reside on the cloud. You simply don't know where your next processor is computing your problem. It could be sitting in San Diego for all you know, right? Or 1/4 of the processor is coming out of Hawaii, right? Amazon has about 500,000 servers, last mentioned. And I keep losing track of the number of servers they're deploying on a daily basis on their entire. And that's just one example of somebody who's managing the cloud for you. Bandwidth, I know in India, lately there's been an uptick in the cost of the mobile bandwidth charges. Well, that's just the nature of the business as the telecom sector becomes more and more organized and consolidates. We expect to see the rates to remain okay. But 3G is now today in some for some businesses cheaper than what 2G was even 6 months ago, which means bandwidth on the mobility is no longer a big concern. Okay, some of the telecom operators that we work with very closely are in the process of announcing, if not already announced, an all-you-can-eat kind of a tariff for the entire year. You commit 1,000 rupees a month, you get free voice and a significant amount of 3G data. That gives you a whole lot of infrastructure available to you. And then applications like SharePoint Online and Dropbox give you a fantastic amount of experience on the cloud, which means you can just dump everything there. You take your mobile phone, go home, switch on to the laptop, the same application is available to you waiting. No change in the user experience. It's no longer 15 years ago we used to worry about Linux or Unix 5.2 or SEO Unix or Microsoft operating system. None of the issues any longer concern. And that's the way the ecosystem is moving in, okay? And that's exactly what some of these beautiful, nifty applications that are being written on the cloud, primarily with mobile as the front-end consumer. Mind you, they're not really looking at somebody sitting at the desk, tied up, and saying, look, this is what you're meant for. They're actually looking at people who are going to be on the field or sitting in a conference like this while checking out your latest updates. That's the target. Okay? By the way, in tablets, for example, 80% of the tablets that are sold in the country today are Wi-Fi enabled, right? They don't have any 2G, 3G radios in them. Why? Because that's what, Wi-Fi is going to be increasingly ubiquitous and available everywhere for almost no cost, which means suddenly you're not tethered to any specific workplace. And with all this beautiful back-end infrastructure being implemented by somebody, you can get going with a business with a switch of a button. Now that's exactly what many of the startups are doing, right? You have this fantastic service providers like Elance. There is a company called Fiverr.com. There are lots of crowdsourcing companies that are available to you. If I am an entrepreneur or a SME and I want to really enable a lot of things, I just don't have to worry about a long-term planning. That's a revolution that's happening already. With just a half an hour idea, with an idea and a half an hour time, your business is up and running even in India today for less than 1,000 rupees a month. So that's the beauty of some of this infrastructure optimized for mobile use. And I say mobile means smartphone as well as the tablet ecosystem. And I'm sorry if it's not very clear. When I did some stuff, it sort of became a little vague. But this talks about how the fourth pillar that I talked about, social media. Because of the social media, people are now generating their feedback instantly. Once upon a time, you're waiting for 24 hours, you saw something, you cooled off a little bit, you gave a feedback. Sorry, not anymore. You see something, you take a quick picture of that, upload on your Facebook or on Twitter or whichever social network of the flavor of the day, and then you broadcast to the rest of the world. And then suddenly you get 1 million likes on top of that, or dislikes as the case may be. But what's happening is, if I look at it carefully, and this is about slightly dated, but I'll read for you, what people are doing on the mobile phones today. That's what the research is all about. Play music, no-brainer. People love music and people love to talk, so that's not an issue. But 47% of the people are today active on social network of one sort or the other. Okay? And on the left-hand side, if it shows that today, where are consumers accessing social media from? That's what the graphics over there show, the pie charts. 97% are accessing from computers, all right, because it's still the predominant amount of bandwidth available. But surprisingly, 37% of the people are actually now, and it's growing, accessing their social media networks from the mobile phone. So that's what is triggering off. The fact of the matter is I have power to share what I think about it, and we all know what's happened in the Jasmine Revolution and the Egyptian Revolution, and more recently what happened in Delhi in December. And that's the power of connecting people to make them reach out to something and do something together. Now that's a consumer thing. Why am I talking about from a business point of view? Because as an IT manager or as a business manager, you're concerned about what people are going to do with that power, both as an employee or your consumers that buy your brands, right? Now, we know all these people who are irate. I have this service provider, very iffy at home, and I don't mind sharing that on my social networks. Within half a second, I get a response from the corresponding brand guy who's obviously monitoring it, saying, I'm extremely sorry to hear you, right? We'll get back to you with a solution. Whether it does it or not, it's a different matter, but the fact of the matter is there's somebody monitoring very actively what's going on the social networks. It's a big element of your business today, okay? Ignore social media at your peril. We all know that, right? Especially in businesses. But because of the power of mobility that we are putting in the hands of people, and it's only growing, right? We are projected to sell about 20 million phones a month in about a year from now, and most of them would be smartphones of some make. Already the Android ecosystem is at 4,000 rupees today. A decent smartphone with a 3G capability, 4-inch screen is available for 4,500 rupees. So suddenly just imagine the number of people in this country that will be having a beautiful smartphone in their hand, okay? That's the only, in fact, what we say is it's the first and the only digital device that anybody will have in this country. It's a radio, a camera, a computer, a music player, and of course it's a phone as well. All built into one smartphone, right? So that's what's happening over here. Once again, I'll just read it for you. I mean, just a very, very interesting, and I thought it's probably, I didn't realize that got this, but people are actually addicted to social media. And right on the top, on the right-hand corner, it says, if you're under 25 years of age, 11%, this is in America, hopefully, can be interrupted by an electronic message during sex. Interesting. Can be interrupted by an electronic message during a meal. 49% of the people are saying that they will actually get interrupted. Can be interrupted by an electronic message while in the bathroom, right? The less said, the better about it. Can be interrupted by an electronic message during a meeting. I guess most of us do that, though it's supposed to be bad etiquette and manners, but we are obviously constantly looking at our mobile phones, whether you're in an airport waiting for a flight that never takes off, you're in a meeting, extremely boring meeting perhaps, or a presentation, hopefully not here. But essentially that's what's happening. It's not just looking for email updates, right? It used to be email about 7-8 years ago, but you have many other interesting aspects to check on a smartphone. Social media is one of them. Okay, 28% of the responses get an update on Twitter before they get out of the bed, right? Fascinating. 26% of the iPhone users check update Twitter before they turn on the TV, right? And I'm part of that. I actually, last year, October, I figured out about Mr. Jobs' death from the Twitter update, because you don't really switch on the television at 7 in the morning. At least I don't. So, it's no longer, there's no proper media, right? Electronic media is also being taken away by the power of social networks. So this is really an interesting statistic. And again, it's one-way street. It's not going to come back. People might go to de-addiction centers for their smartphones, and they'll come out and get back to Twitter and Facebook. That's going to definitely happen. Right, I just thought quickly share, those are all the trends, right? Bring your own device, the rise of smartphones and mobile app stores, cloud, and social media. These are the 4 things that are really impacting the way business is going to happen. I just thought I'll share some examples of what we are doing at Nokia. Are we eating our own dog food? Yes, we are. We actually have an app that is now deployed across 5,000 outlets across the country, where we have sales promoters who send us real-time updates of the sellout. What you sell at the retail is called a sellout. We get the daily sellout reports from our promoters via a simple SMS application called Saturn. Obviously, we can't afford to give them smartphones over there, but very soon they will. And in many other locations, the GPRS connectivity is also pretty iffy. So we have an SMS-based application, but believe me, it's extremely powerful. When a customer walks out of the store with a phone, it's automatically updated, and we get an SMS. So by end of the day, we collate, we see the trends, who's bought what, what's the ASP, same store growth, a whole lot of stuff that salespeople follow. The distributor beat management. So the retailers are covered by distributors, who then have the salespeople feet on the street doing the beat management, as we call it, the PJP. Those in the FMCG industry understand that. These guys actually cover typically 50 stores or something, depending on the territory. Now, they are being given SMS-based solution as well for order management. Okay? So again, these are all very simple things, and I'm sure many companies have already done it, but it's important. The power of it is because our country is still pretty poor in terms of some of the connectivity issues. So these things help us stay on top of what's exactly happening. So when a stock gets out of the Nokia warehouse into the distributor, into retailer, into customer hands, we get to know the entire chain. Sales funnel update. Social cast, that's actually an internal application we use. This is more to do with employees. Social cast is nothing but an internal Facebook for employees. Okay? And our CEO is a regular participant, wherever he is, in Finland or is in US or China. He constantly sends updates on that, and the best thing about it is he expects people to react, positive, negative, comments are given, likes are sent, and he takes feedback constantly saying, I'm in Brazil today, and I'm seeing the sale of so-and-so happening. What's the feedback in India, right? For a given launch, for example. And we are free to send our feedback saying, it sucks big time, carry limiting move, but it's okay. Or it's doing well, or we hope to get a different color. Brazil likes gray, we love yellow, whatever it is. So those kind of feedbacks are there. But today, out of 30,000 employees in the Nokia mobile system globally, more than 27,000 employees are on the social cast. It's a voluntary enrollment, but they are there, which means you're constantly sending and getting updates. So that's and most of are obviously on the field, right? We don't really, with all salespeople have to sit on get on the field. We constantly send updates and get to know what's going on. That's a very powerful tool, but again, it's also to do with some of the culture of the company. It may not be suitable for a lot of companies where there's a hierarchical way of doing things. A more egalitarian society, probably like Finland, accepts that. And PR responses, and I mentioned that, but our PR team is constantly monitoring alerts on the brand reputation, customer feedback sessions, and so on and so forth, primarily coming out of the mobility. A guy sitting at the customer care center, he's given a token. That's how it works for Nokia. He says half an hour. If it takes 40 minutes, the guy sends a dirty SMS. Rightfully so. And that's monitored by the PR and communications team, and they send it back to the respective head to try and see, can you do something about it? You may not be able to respond anything immediately, but you take care of some of the statistics later on. Okay? Now, having painted a beautiful picture of how the whole world is going, and obviously from an IT perspective, there are some concerns, and that's what it is. Security is the biggest concern that I keep hearing. When I go around the field saying, look, all this is great, fantastic, but we got a business to run extremely in secure fashion. Yes, accepted. Nobody's denying that. Phones can be hacked into. You lose phones. Applications can be easily hacked into. Those are definitely some of the big concerns that you need to look into. Even a site like Facebook was attacked 2 days ago. It's millions of storage servers, but it's possible, right? Anything is possible in today's world when people are after you. So that's something that, and the concern obviously is when I have a mobile phone of iPhone, Android, Windows, BlackBerry, all sorts of operating systems, how do I keep track of managing the security of these devices? That's a big concern. Obviously, there are professionals who manage that. Manageability or mobile device management is a big issue as well, right? Obviously, there are tools available. For example, I talked about AirWatch, which is a device management tool that I use on my phone. It actually can remotely wipe out your data once you make a complaint. So the phone becomes dead in the wrong hands, assuming you make a complaint. How do you ensure that you have a uniform experience across? Not everybody is going to get onto the cloud, right? You have a very powerful storage infrastructure you built over a period of years in your organization, and suddenly you have people having multiple devices, right? So how do I ensure that a given app has the same experience on laptop, on the large screen desktop, or a mobile phone or a tablet, right? Especially at the senior level people, they don't really want to understand how it looks, they just want to have the functionality. So that's a big concern. Real-time analytics. This is a big demand that's coming in. The concern is how do we ensure that you're getting the right analytics? For example, we live and die by the analytics all the time. Like I said, the same store sales day on day is a big metric by which the sales manager lives and dies. So ensuring that offered to the customer, to the employees is a big concern. Oops. I just have, I think, one slide which summarizes everything. And then, so essentially, in summary, mobile is increasingly going to become the primary device of access. Let's not run away from there. Whatever we say, it's going to happen. In 2017, the predictions are 70% of the traffic would come from mobility onto the company intranet. It obviously offers anytime, anywhere. Real-time push. So big data and analytics are going to be the themes, because ultimately a mobile phone is a beautiful front-end device that is ideally suited for all your big data analysis and sending out the information to the front-end customer. Taking the power of the decision right at the smartphone is really what the world is moving towards to. Having said that, security concerns remain. Nobody said the world is a perfect world, so one needs to be careful about it. But the statistics are mind-boggling. In 2011, India sold probably about 150 million phones. Like I said, next year will probably end up doing 250 million phones, so it's a growth rate of 60-70% in just 2 years. Tablets. In 2001, less than 1 million, 1.5 million tablets were sold, primarily the iPads and Samsung tabs. In 2012, already more than 3 million sold. In 2013, the projections are 6.5, 7 million tablets will be sold. And it's just doubling every year thereafter. So in 2070, we'll probably have 40, 50 million tablets in the hands of people. So these two are going together, converging, and these things are definitely going to come up as part of the discussions for CIO managers. Right? With that, thanks a lot for your time.
We have 4 to 5 minutes left. We can take some questions.
In fact, one question is, you said you have 27,000 people on your internet Facebook.
Right.
How many of them do update?
No, they don't. Yeah, so we People
So
are there.
what? How much percentage?
The active people are probably, if I look at a day-on-day basis, probably about, I see about 1,000 people are doing it. But if I were to look at monthly, almost 80% of them are active users doing
The unique updaters, huh?
on a month-on-month basis.
On a month-on-month basis.
I put about 4 or 5 updates a month. That's fair for myself.
Sir, if we will take the example of United States of America, then there many mobile manufacturing organizations are providing such mobiles where one application is embedded in the mobile to provide a secure voice communication. Whenever we will set up any communication over the mobile, then the data will be encrypted at the source side and then it will be decrypted at the receiving end only. So in such a way we can transfer the secure voice communication. So we want to know that how much time we will take to provide such type of mobile in India.
So the mobile phones are already there. It's just that encryption is part of the customization. So I'm working with a partner who's working on the defense establishments. Obviously, confidential, but about 60,000 phones are being delivered to them with exactly the same solution. Right? And they want in a private network of their own, the border segments essentially, and it clears that nobody can encrypt into that or hack it. So the basic hardware is there, but they are going to put that encryption on top.
Suresh, if you don't mind, I would like to give a couple of add 2 cents on your behalf.
Sure, please.
Because I come from a telecom industry. The thing is, sorry, my voice is pretty bad, so I'm not trying to Indian
If
accent.
you can have the mic, please.
It's fine. I don't
Mike,
have
you want to come over here? Hello? We have a mic there.
just let me take a minute, that'll be good. Okay, the thing is, when you mention US, we're talking about. Can't hear you. He came to your rescue. Thank you. The thing is, when we are talking about or comparing with US, Verizon, Sprint, such people, such service providers, you will not see that trend that good in India when your cellular service provider is offering you the handset. Whereas in India, you're going as a retail buyer, you're picking up the handset, and then you are choosing which cellular service provider will be my service provider for me, Airtel, Aircel, and you switch on a lightning speed. I'm not getting a good customer care service, so I have to change. A better 3G plan is in Aircel compared to that in Airtel, so I'll switch over. And when these service providers are offering the handsets, these applications are already there. Even Airtel in India can provide that. But if you'd see the trend past few years, 2.5 years I would say, Airtel launched iPhone that started with 3, 4S. So these embedded applications are there. They are there in your handset. But the compatibility will differ what kind of encryption we are trying to do, and that has to be end-to-end, which is possible when the handsets are coming out from and offered from the outlet of cellular service provider itself. And that is not happening in India, courtesy the cellular service providers, or you can say the retailer, clients like we are. So it's there, it's still existing. Your Indian Army, they were one of our clients. They are using it past 7 years. We are providing that solution, but they have a different bandwidth. So that is not detected, and that need not be broadcasted even as an information. So those things are there. It's now only that habit or the trend shift that will take place. It's already existing.
One more question.
Please.
We see Android and iPhone getting too much of acceptance because of their play apps, as you said. Again, that was more so driven because it was open source. People used to, develop the apps and they used to put it on the stores over there. Why is Nokia not on Android? Or maybe why is it level Microsoft is in fact, in 2013 it is supporting the open document format and it's supporting the open source. It's going at once it was saying Linux is a cancer. He said the Microsoft said it publicly. But now Microsoft is in fact adopting to the open source. Why is Nokia not doing that?
Yeah, so the question is why not Nokia on Android?
Maybe, yeah.
So I get
Maybe there are a host of new more OS which are coming up. Maybe Tizen or Ubuntu, and there are a few more OS open source OS which are coming up. But maybe on any of them, why is it that?
Yeah, so let me just. So this is not the first time, I'm sure this won't be the last time I get this question.
Yes, sure.
Thanks. So, there's a strategic decision, so I'm not involved in that. So 2 years ago, two years ago, they took a call. Now, so the company has taken a decision for whatever reasons, right? They evaluated Android ecosystem and the Microsoft, and therefore decided to move to Microsoft Windows operating system. Now, I'm not so sure about the open system part of it because Apple to me is a closed ecosystem. It's controlled by them and it's pretty much what it is. Android obviously based on Linux, so it has to be an open ecosystem, but there are, last counted, the million versions of Android floating around in the marketplace. So the reason why Nokia went for Windows was to somebody to control. It's an open system, all right. Now, SDKs are available, you can download, more than, like I said, in India alone, some 30,000 developers are already onto Windows SDK, WP8 and all that stuff. So it's a long story, in the sense it takes a long haul. Google took 5 years to get to where it is today with the Android, and hopefully Nokia will go there. But it's committed itself to the Windows platform on the smartphones. Though on the low end side, there is this S40, which is a Symbian as we call it. It still works. I mean, in Asha smartphones, we sell millions of them every month. And there again is a larger ecosystem. So these are the two plays on the devices that Nokia has decided. But the theme is, it works for whatever ecosystem. So I'm just going a step above, whether it's an Android or a Windows or iPhone, some of these concerns are valid.